We now have kind of a timeline on when Caleb Williams is expected to sign his rookie scale deal with the Chicago Bears, which some people are a little bit worried about. We're gonna tell you today why you shouldn't be all too worried about it. We're also gonna look at three position battles as the Chicago Bears head into training camp that could be hugely important for the season. And then we're also going to talk about, should playoffs be the expectation for this team next season? We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. So Brad Biggs, shout out to him, who added a kind of a more clear timeline in what we could expect with Caleb Williams signing his rookie scale deal. For what it's worth, him and Rome Odunze have both not signed their rookie scale deals as of yet. And, it's causing some concern for Bears fans, even though it shouldn't be. Like, the rookie scale deals are set. They're slotted. So it's going to be what it's going to be. Him being selected first overall, he's going to get a 4-year deal worth a little bit over $39 million with a 5th-year option worth $25 million. We know what that said. Caleb Williams, for his credit, has said that he's not involved in the contract negotiations. He's focused right now, learning the playbook, getting ready for the season, acclimating to his teammates, and that's what he should be doing at this point. I love that he's more focused on that. And Brad Biggs, who added into this, at this juncture, there's no reason for concern that the Bears won't sign Williams before training camp opens, which will be a week earlier than usual because the team is playing in the Hall of Fame game against the Houston Texans on August 1st. Rookie reports to training camp on July 6th for the Bears, so there's about a month before any real reason to be concerned about Williams not signing. So we're sit right now a month before that date, and more than likely something's going to get done. Now, there is fair to ask a question. Okay, well, Haize, if the contract's already slated, if we know what it's going to be, what is taking it? And that, just honestly, I have no answer for, right? But like I said, Rome Odunze's not signed yet. Jaden Daniels just recently signed his contract. It may just be a timing thing, right? Maybe it's just a time for him and his agents to link with the Bears front office and get it done. Again, does that sound a bit excusey? Yeah, in fairness, it does. But ultimately, I don't really have any doubts. If you're worried about this deal getting done or any type of thing like that, I would say that if something's not done by the end of the first week of July, that may be where it's time to start worrying. So it leaves about 2 weeks, right? 2-3 weeks before you really got to start worrying about it. But, I understand with the Bears fans and the excitement around Caleb Williams, anything that even looks like it could throw a wrench in that, people are going to be concerned about. But maybe this is just kind of the newfound thing. Like for a while there, rookies got drafted, they signed their contracts, you didn't even worry about it. But it's a new day and age. Things are different, and maybe that's just what's contributing to it. Again, this is not to give any excuses for it. I want the contract signed as soon as possible, but I think we have a couple of weeks before you really got to worry about anything. With Hard Knocks being around, things like that, I think they're gonna. How crazy that would look. And I mean, maybe to get a storyline for Hard Knocks, if the Bears are on Hard Knocks and Caleb Williams does not sign his rookie contract before the cameras start rolling, that would be crazy. That'd probably be one of the biggest blunders that we've seen ever. I have no doubt that it's going to happen. Everything that we've heard from Caleb, him, going through the training camp and doing what he's been doing, already setting up meetings with the wide receivers to link up before training camp opens. All those things point towards it's all good in Chicagoland, and I think something's going to get done. But again, like I said, in fairness, I understand the concern, and we'll just see. We'll see if anything does change where it does look like it's pivoting towards something we need to be more concerned about. Have no doubt about it. We will be one of the first ones here to talk about it at Chicago Bears Central. But something that it is big to talk about is the training camp battles. We got a few training camp battles that I think could be hugely important for the Chicago Bears season. And one that we've been talking about a lot is the center position. We all know the center position right now is a big question mark. You look at Lucas Patrick, who started 15 games last year for the Chicago Bears, that had the lowest, I think he was the most penalized center than any other starting center in the NFL. And he also had a PFF grade of only 50.5. So, we moved on from Lucas Patrick. We shaped up to at least have upgraded since then. And so, we're bringing in Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, who are expected to compete for that. Coleman Shelton, who may very well end up being our starting right guard, depending on what happens with Nate Davis. But there's there. And then also Doug Kramer is also still on the roster when it comes down to it. we don't know if he's going to be factoring into the battle of the starter. Maybe there could be something to be said there with them keeping Doug Kramer around as long as they have and not moving on from him. But Shelton, he started all 17 games at center for the Rams in 2023, and Ryan Bates has 19 games of starting experience at the guard position, none at the center position. So, there's a lot riding on this. And the way that I've worded it before is saying that the Bears center play has been in the trash the last few years, and we want to get it up to competency. And there is more than enough reason to believe Coleman Shelton, Ryan Bates, even Doug Kramer, who's been around in this system for a long time, could bring it up to competency. And having that rotation between those three guys, I think is going to be important as well. We know that the Bears brought in guys who all can play multiple positions on that offensive line over the course of the season. So, that's a big one. And who wins that starting position, I think, is either way is going to be an upgrade over what we had in Lucas Patrick. But overall, like I said, the center play should be much better than what it was last season. And that's an important part of it. When the first person to touch the ball on every play, you want to have faith that they can at least do that. And unfortunately, Lucas Patrick just did not bring that consistently last year. And Sam Mustipher before him did not bring it, right? So we've moved on from guys who, like I said, were below the expectation, below competency. We've now brought in the guys that at least are expected to get us to being competent as far as the center play for the Chicago Bears, and they could be above that. I'm just saying that that is the baseline. That's the floor. We're going to have competent center play last year, and that in of itself is a huge upgrade for the Bears. If we can get above the competent play, right, and get solid play to good play to great play, if we can get anything above competent, it's a huge plus mark and green check mark for the Chicago Bears to be able to do that. So we got to keep our heads about it. I know that we didn't address it in the way that a lot of Bears fans wanted to see us address that center position last year, but we did improve it. And that's all you can expect for, right? Is then you improve from what you were last season, and we have improved that aspect of it, I think. But you guys can let me know what you think down below. The next position battle for the Chicago Bears is the defensive end position battle. We know that DeMarcus Walker slated to be the starter. He produced 30 tackles, 3.5 sacks last year. That was without Montez Sweat there next on the opposite side of him for the full year. And, there's some expectation that he's going to come in and be able to perform. He set career highs in sacks in 2022 with the Tennessee Titans. So when we got him, we were hoping that some of that was going to come into play. And then you look at Jacob Martin, who's the other veteran we brought in to that defensive end group. But we still did have Austin Booker there. So I think that it's going to come down to Austin Booker and DeMarcus Walker as far as a battle, if there is one. We have heard that Austin Booker will be allowed to compete for a starting in position. And I think that if he does win it, it's a vote of great confidence. Austin Booker, who, while he is inexperienced, has a lot of the tools that you look for in a difference-making defensive end. And the fact that, I don't know what you would do if you put him and Dexter on the same side, or maybe him and Billings and then Dexter and Montez on the opposite side, so you have a nice mix of veteran and young player on both those sides. But if Austin Booker does win it, I do think that that it's a good sign for the future of that position for the Bears as well. And I don't look at that as a knock of DeMarcus Walker. He's going to play a lot of snaps. We have Eric Washington now as our defensive coordinator, and he's a former D-line coach that uses a lot of combinations because he likes to keep his D-line fresh. And having the guys that we have there is going to be important for that. So I think when you look at Austin Booker's explosiveness, the tools that he has, the speed, the strength, all those combinations of that, if Booker does come out of this summer in this training camp winning that starting defensive end position, it actually puts us in a better situation, because then you're saying that, hey, a rookie showed us enough that we trust him, and then you still have a veteran in DeMarcus Walker who can he can play all four positions on that defensive line, and that adds a little bit more toolsiness to him as well. So looking at who comes out of this, I think is going to be huge. But I think even if Austin Booker doesn't win it, still being able to have him there as somebody who can come in as a reserve, he's going to pass Robinson and things like that. I think it's a nice sign in the right direction for the Chicago Bears. And like I said, overall, you want signs in the right direction, right? You want improvement at positions. And the Bears, if they don't feel confident in their play of that opposite defensive line, they still have the option of adding a veteran defensive end there, whether it's Yannick Ngakoue or any other defensive end. They have the option of doing that, which is something that Ryan Poles likes, maintaining that flexibility of being able to add players if he does look in training camp. We've done it before. We've gone through training. Hell, when we got Yannick Ngakoue, we did very much the same thing. We were hoping Travis Gibson. We were hoping Dominique Robinson stepped up. And when they didn't, they went out and got a guy, a veteran who they trusted was going to at least be able to get to the quarterback. Now, that season went up and down as the defensive line play did, and we didn't get to see a lot of unique with Montez Sweat, but we're starting off this defensive line in a much better position having Montez Sweat there, right? And so the votes of confidence you've given Javon Dexter, you've given Zach Pickens by not bringing in veterans there, hopefully that pays off. And if you get another young player to step up with them in Austin Booker, that makes the future really bright for the Chicago Bears. So overall, the defensive end is another important position battle to watch this offseason, because I think that it could also tell how it goes over the season, where the Bears have to allocate spending or draft compensation or whatever else at positions next year. So let's hope that that goes the right direction. And then lastly, one that's not as important, at least I don't have on my book, is the backup quarterback position. Tyson Bagent, who was the backup quarterback last year, a lot of Bears fans really love Tyson Bagent. And so he finished with 859 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But we did bring in veteran Brett Ripon, and then we also did sign undrafted free agent Austin Reed, who, much like Tyson Bagent, was an undrafted free agent. So I think it could come down to system fit, right? And when you come in with a new coach, because we do know that Tyson Bagent was a Luke Getsy pick, doesn't mean that he still doesn't fit what we're trying to do going forward. But if Shane Waldron feels more comfortable about Austin Reed, who does have a very comparable collegiate resume to Tyson Bagent, it really isn't something that I look at as a huge negative. I know that people love Tyson Bagent. I know, having him here and staying in, I've said it before, I see the value of having a system backup quarterback that you just know if they need to get in the game, you know what they can bring. They know the system. They know that there is something to be said there. But it doesn't mean that Tyson Bagent is going to be it. Doesn't mean that he's not going to be, but it could mean that Austin Reed gets a much of an opportunity to win that position as anybody else. And so it comes down to who brings it. And we know in the preseason, we're going to see a lot of the backup quarterback, right? We've already heard from Matt Eberflus about 45 to 65 reps for Caleb Williams in the preseason is what they'd like to give him. That leaves a whole lot of other reps to look at Tyson Bagent, to look at Austin Reed, to look at Brett Ripon, if this coaching staff feels the need to do that in that position battle. So it is something to watch. It is something that I think that I don't see as carrying 4 quarterbacks. One could end up on the practice squad, for example. We could, cut Austin Reed and add him to the practice squad so he stays in the system, especially if Shane Waldron does like him, but he wants to go with kind of the more seasoned vet in Brett and Tyson Bagent. So that's something, of course, to look out for over this time as well. But I think that's it's an important position battle, because you want depth there, and you want, if for God forbid something happened to where Caleb has to sit a game or so, you want to have confidence in who's going to be able to step in there, at least of being somebody who can manage the game and knows how to operate the system. And so that's something overall that I think you can look at. But other than that, I mean, when you look at it, the Bears are really returning most of their starters. We know on the offensive side we had a lot of turnover, but we know who's going to slate in there. DeAndre Swift's going to be the starter. All right, we know that Jared Everett is going to back up Cole Kmet, but we're going to use 2 tight end sets. The wide receiver room, we know it's going to be DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. And then, of course, the starting quarterback, we know it's going to be Caleb Williams. So, and then the defensive side, we've returned about 97% of the starters over there. Javon Dexter is going to be a first-time starter this season, but he was on the roster last year. And, of course, we got Kevin Byard coming in as a veteran acquisition. About everything else stays the same. And so with everything staying the same, even the coach and Matt Eberflus staying the same, we changed coordinators. That leads us to our last topic today. What is the expectation for the Chicago Bears in 2024? A lot of Bears fans have the expectation of 11, 12 wins. And I'm not necessarily going off wins here, right? Is the expectation for the Bears to compete for a postseason spot? And do you look at that differently, whether it's an outright playoff spot or wild card spot? Me personally, when I look at it, I just want them to make the postseason. I really don't. If they make the postseason with 9 wins, I'm not going to poo-poo it. Like, I'll, of course, look at it and say, well, we could have got a couple of more extra wins there. But I think it's important for this team and where they are, the continuity that they've returned, as well as betting on your head coach, who doubled his wins from his rookie coaching season to his second season, that it's important to now keep that development going. And the next logical step in that development, even with the change, to me, is competing for a playoff spot. But that leads it, is that reasonable to ask? With a rookie quarterback, is that the reasonable ask for this team? And in fairness, like there's a lot of different aspects and perspectives that you can take on if it's fair or not. The way that I look at it is the defense. If we're talking about having a top 5 defense, then yes, you want that to push you to playoff contention. And then the offense, even though it's a lot of new pieces and a new offensive coordinator, it shouldn't take a full season for the offense to gel. A few games, I've said personally, I'm giving it until the bye week of week 7. After that, I want to see the offense really rocking and rolling on all cylinders ideally. But a lot of it also comes down to how much of Caleb Williams' mistakes does he learn from early in the season. He's going to make mistakes, people. He's going to have bad games, people. But it's how he develops and learns from that. And how, as a team, we face the adversity. This was a team that lost a lot of close games last year. And while they always said the right things, we didn't necessarily show that on the football field. And we never really had a games where the offense and defense both were playing at the level that we saw in some other games. It was either the offense let down the defense or vice versa. And so having a team that the defense and offense both consistently play at the same level, right? That is going to be something that also propels this team. And in keeping Eberflus, and he was the defensive play caller in the season, you are very much so expecting this defense to start off on a much better foot than what it started off last season. And then you pivot towards Caleb Williams, Shane Waldron, and that new Bears offense. And I personally think enough has stayed the same on that offense while we've added veterans, even though we've added rookies in Rome and Caleb, of course. We have enough veterans on that offense that you expect them, like I said, to be gelling by the end of the season. And this is an offense that is so talented on paper, that has much more talent than what we've seen for the Chicago Bears in years, is that you expect that offense to be good by the end of the season. And so I think that the expectation of making the postseason is a great and realistic expectation to have. Now, of course, if injuries happen, things like that derail the season, then you can kind of adjust those based off that. But I think that this opportunity that we have right now with the Bears to make a serious leap in what they're doing, you got to expect postseason. We got Pro Bowlers and DJ Moore, TJ Edwards, and Tremaine. You want him to see much better, but the continuity that we have in that secondary, the linebacking core building off of it, and starting off with Montez Sweat, there's more than enough reason, I think, to have that and hold that expectation for the Bears to make the playoffs. And so I would love to say win the division, right? But I look at it like this first. Prove it. Like, you can still make the playoffs without winning the division. And if that's what you have to do, do it. Now, if you can win the division in that, that's cool, but that's a tall test. We have a division that's all going to be competing, right? Maybe except the Vikings, but we'll see what happens with that one. But we've beaten just about every team except the Packers in the division last year, and we've improved since then. That doesn't mean that we're going to automatically. I mean, they've looked to improve as well, but with that said, you want to see this improvement, this talent that we brought in. It means something. And to me, yeah, you can still have a successful season depending on the development of certain players. But for the success as a team, I'm looking for the team to make the postseason. And I also think Matt Eberflus should have that expectation on him as well. You stayed on as a head coach when your job should have been, your seat should have been hot. And when a front office has to deliberate for 3 days to keep you, it means that there's at least enough voices in that front office that don't believe in Matt Eberflus. And while he has 1 year left on his contract, we still need to see development from him as well. As much as we've talked about development from anybody else, Matt Eberflus's development is as hugely important to the Bears' success next year as just as Caleb Williams is over the time, just as much as Jaquan Briskers is over the next season. So we got to see better from Matt Eberflus. And I think that now having the offensive staff that he does, with somebody who is going to be a collaborator with him there and Shane Waldron, that you should expect that. The situational awareness as well for Matt Eberflus, we need to see that better. And so, overarching, to just bring this point all the way home when it's all said and done, yes, I personally have the expectation for the Bears to be in postseason game. We can talk about what happens in the postseason, whether or not they lose, whatever. But I think that even through rookie struggles being expected for Caleb Williams, and again, I'm going to say this every time, the rookie struggles will come, regardless if he gets that generational label or not, it's going to come. And I think that expectation here, and it's not just because of Caleb Williams. A lot of people have the conversation whether we should make the postseason or not based off Caleb being better than Justin or not, but it's about the team. This team is in a much better situation than what it was last year, with pieces that just seem to fit and talent well far and above than what we had last year. And the fact that we got a competent play caller as well, and the Getsy-ism can get off this team, I think contributes a lot to the added expectations around it as well. So I think that's going to be the thing. You set up your rookie quarterback to be in one of the best situations a number one overall pick has ever walked into. And you want to benefit from that by getting him some experience in the postseason right away, because I do think that jumpstarts the development of your young rookie quarterback and your team overall. So let's hope that that's going to be the case, guys. But overall, Thank you guys for sitting through this episode with me. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central. Wrong podcast. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.